So today I wanted to talk about suffering and how one of the kindest things we can do in many cases is to actually let ourselves and other people suffer. In other words, I personally, and feel free, of course, to disagree with me. I'm not a trained psychologist, and I'm not going to invalidate people's education and other people's theories, but I personally don't resonate with the whole idea that you should train someone how to love you. I think when you're in the field of love, first of all, you attract someone that's compatible with you, and the nourishing female qualities naturally come out of you. The providing, protecting male qualities naturally come out of you. It's a natural thing that happens. But there's this whole business of trying to let people know how you need to be treated so that you're never triggered, and I think that's one of the most unintelligent things I've ever heard. And here's why. Here's why. If you are like me and you want to be radically free meaning your deepest fears do not own you, the fear of nothingness, the fear of abandonment, the fear of death, the fear of aloneness. If you don't want those things to own you, you shouldn't be telling your friends or your partner, oh, make sure you call me every day at this time, which it's okay to say, hey, call me when you land, call me when you get there, right? But that's like saying, training people how to love you is like saying, okay, make sure that I never feel my pain ever. Do this, this, and this, right? Some people think that's what love is, which in my opinion and what I've seen in the aftermath of behaving like that, it's actually detrimental to a human being to try to train someone to basically keep you enabled, okay? So, and here's why I feel this way. Right now, I am experiencing perhaps one of the most intense psychological ego deaths I've ever experienced in terms of my greatest fear, my greatest psychological fear in relationship that comes up in relationship is literally, I feel it disappearing, draining, and all of this vital life force. Like this radical freedom is like filling my being. And if I had told people in my life, make sure you always check in with me this many times. If I had told intimate partners, make sure under these circumstances always you say this. Make sure you don't trigger me in this way. Make sure that, see, and I feel everything. Like when somebody, when people talk about withdrawing love, like when you're intertwined with someone energetically, we can all feel it, right? When someone is creating space, is disconnecting from you, I'm aware of that all the time. And so, especially in the case of romantic partner, if you happen to have a partner, for example, let's make a real example. If you have an intense fear of abandonment and you want to awaken, you might attract a person in your life that loves distance. Perfect. Why is that perfect? Because if I don't feel the pain that I need to feel, which is that really intense feeling of abandonment, I'm never going to get tired of it and trade it in for something else, aka freedom, right? If I'm enabled and I'm trained and a trauma sensitive person, it's helping me never feel triggered, well, I'm never going to be free, which is what I want. I guess it depends what you want. Some people want to be comfortable. I want to be free. There's a difference. So sometimes in order for a really deep fear like this, sometimes in order for you to get to the place where you're like, okay, I give up, I'm done with this, I'm trading it for freedom. sometimes the process is that you need to get so tired of it that you almost OD on it. The same thing happened for me with the fear of death, right? Nobody could help me with that one. I was struggling with that one because I had the cancer thing 12 years ago. So it's been in my awareness a lot. You know, I love life. I love being alive. And as I think about certain things like starting a family, XYZ, this fear is coming up. My body remembers all the tests, all the surgeries, all the radiation, all the poking. So when I walk into a hospital to get a checkup, right, you know, I feel, not anymore so much, but I feel, my body feels anxiety. So it got so ridiculous to the point where I had to sit on the floor even when I would walk into a CVS. This is after Kundalini awakening, because my mind was associating all the products and the smells and with medical treatments. Thank God I didn't go get treated for anxiety. Well, I'm not recommending this. I'm not recommending this, please. Take it or leave it, everything I say. I'm kind of an extreme person and I'm a radical person. But had somebody been there to hold my hand and drive me around, I wouldn't have OD'd on the fear of death. Like, I OD'd on it, and one day I said, fuck it. Death, if you want me, come get me. If today's my day, today's my day. I'm bored of this. I'm bored of this. I'm bored of this. I'm bored of this. Let's just get it over with. If today is my day to go to the other side, fucking take me. I'm still gonna drive. I'm still gonna live my life. Still gonna go do the things I need to do. Period. It's like you just get, you kind of get bored of fear when you take it in excess, when you experience it in excess. So in relationship, especially the fear of abandonment, for me, my strongest pattern is to believe nobody's there for me and that I will never get what I want in life. That's the construct, the vault, which is the fear in the heart, is the fear of abandonment, which is a very existential fear. And it goes with the tank of the lower three chakras, which is when I feel that I wield an axe, I feel that I need to panic, I feel I abuse myself by panicking, and I abuse others by overly expressing my fear, connecting too hard, anxiously wanting to attach myself to someone. And this has been winding down over the course of years, but literally, I was walking the other day and I prayed and I talked about prayer, and the video got deleted, which I'm not sure what that's about, but prayer is essentially a request, a sincere request to ask what I need to know, what I need to shift within myself in order to experience what I want to experience. So if I want to experience freedom, so I was walking the other day praying out loud audibly. Audible prayer is a technology that I learned from Kabbalah. Show me the insight, show me the insight, show me what I'm missing, show me what I'm missing. And by the way, people had commented on that video that got deleted. Well, I've been praying for years, my prayers weren't answered. And here's my honest answer to that. Prayers are answered every single time, even instantaneously. The answer exists before the question. That's just the way the universe is designed. If you don't receive the answer, it's because you don't really want to know. In order to receive answers, whether it's by psychic, looking, by intuition, automatic writing, you have to really want to know the answer. You have to want to know the answer as much as someone who's starving wants to eat. And then you have to get out of the way and accept whatever the answer is what it is, with no bias, no opinion, no distortion. You have to want it that bad, right? Because if you've stayed stuck in a situation and a feeling, it's because you want to stay stuck. And you have to ask yourself, why do I want this? Am I afraid of responsibility? Am I afraid of what comes with moving forward? Am I afraid of failure? Am I afraid of feelings that I don't believe I can deal with if I move on with my life? Etc., etc. So I prayed and I received an answer that the way that I break this fear is to understand my pattern, to really understand it. I'm just in a thought. I'm in this thought that no one's here for me. It's just a thought. It's not real. I'm in a thought that I'm in a feeling. It's a fear of abandonment. It's just a feeling. It's not objective reality. It's just a feeling I'm experiencing. And then I remember what in Rohan we call the exit plan, which for me, my exit plan, an exit plan is a physical action, a mantra, sometimes clapping, sometimes walking, affirming something with conviction that snaps you out, gets you out of that state of being, that box, that room. So from the room of abandonment, right, that's what the definition of karma is: action. When you take action from fear, right, you create more karma. So if you're stuck in a room of abandonment or nothingness or fear of death and you take actions, you create more complexity in your life. So I receive this clear instruction: use your exit plan, which for me, my exit plan to get out of the fear of abandonment is to put my hand on my heart and say, I choose freedom. I choose freedom. I'm not going to live in this fear anymore. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And universe, you can challenge me, get rid of all the people in my life, take away the people that matter to me most. I won't hear from people for a month, which will challenge that feeling within me, right? When I get challenged when I don't feel connected to someone, especially someone who I consider family. So anyway, the point of this is you don't want to train people. You don't want to train you don't want to train people to not trigger you. You want to respect yourself, choose people, right? When you're in a field of self-love, you will automatically attract people who my friend sent me a meme this morning that was like, when people choose themselves, they attract people that choose them. Essentially, that's the truth. When I take care of myself, when I love myself, when I accept myself, and I accept my humanity, and I truly love myself, which is that I'm perfectly at ease and at peace with who and where I am in life, then of course you attract people like that, because you would be repulsed by people who don't live that way. So you don't need to train people how to love you. Now, if you are in a relationship with someone who has been experienced severe trauma, and you have agreed between you to say, okay, I'm going to help you get through this. I'll make sure you never feel abandoned. I'll make sure you'll never feel unsafe. That's a choice, and that's a beautiful thing to do with people. That's a beautiful thing. That's a very caring thing to do. That's just not what I'm here, not what I'm about. To, like I said, take it or leave it. This is about radical freedom. If I had trained people not to trigger my fear of abandonment, I wouldn't come to this point where I'm done with it. I'm sick of it. It's over. It's done. I'm not living in that state of being anymore. I'm out. I'm free. I'm not going to stay trapped in that room where I have to control my reality. Because that, to me, I'm such a free person that just feels like torture to me. Anything less than radical freedom doesn't work for me. So again, I'm speaking of what works for me. But the bad thing about trying to never trigger someone, and this doesn't give you permission to be a dick or be cruel. Not at all. When you have opened your heart, and when you're no longer living in your own fear, you naturally communicate from a more loving, understanding, connected place. Because when you're in a fear, all you care about is your own survival. It's selfish. It's your own survival. Give me the answer now. Text me back now. Oh, I'm gonna be mean and cruel to you if you don't text me back now. If you're not in fear, like, all that's left is the natural state of being, which is love and connection. So first things first, get out of these fears, get out of these rooms. Fastest way, let them be there. You can practice something in Kabbalah called certainty, which means if you're feeling an extreme pain, which is the fear, it could be loss, grief, going through a breakup, being uncertain about where your life is going, not having answers to questions you feel you need. Certainty means accepting that all those pains are good, they're from the Creator, and they're here to show you what to change. So if you're experiencing, for example, the difficulty of rejection or betrayal, just feel it, feel it, feel it, and tell yourself this is good. Because if you do anything other than practice certainty, if you do anything other than let that pattern expand and be felt, you're just going to shove it back down and save it for later. You're just going to save it for later, and it's going to create your reality. If it doesn't get, if it's still resisted, if you're still trying to avoid it, it will create your reality. It will choose people in your life that you probably don't want in your life. It'll make choices that you probably will regret, or that will lead you into more complexity than you need to be led into, right? So this is just the way I live. And of course we have love languages, and oh, if you want me to cook for you, of course I would love to. Like in my experience, when I feel love, everything that is love just comes out of me. I want to care for you. I want to cook for you. I want to plan a trip for you. I want to. I just want to. And it's what's interesting, what's in relationship, both on the male side and the female side, like a little bit goes such a long way, right? A little bit of understanding, compassion goes such a long way. A little bit of trust and respect and appreciation for what somebody does, maybe to provide for your family goes such a long way. But the egos are so obsessed with, what people aren't doing, with lack, with what you're not doing for me. And so that's destructive. So yeah, we should practice appreciation. We should practice communicating from our heart. We absolutely should do that. I'm not saying just stay triggered and never try to show up in a loving way. I'm saying that if you try, if you live in a way where you're trying to never trigger people, right? If you honestly don't feel, for example, if you have a person who chronically is freaking out about stuff, maybe you have a friend who texts you every single day in wild anxiety. And to be honest with you, if you're honest with yourself, that doesn't feel good to you to be this person's outlet on a daily basis. Well, if you're trying, to be good, which I don't recommend, you'll pick up the phone anyway. You'll do it anyway, even if it's draining, even if you're busy, even if you're working, even if you want to stay in good energy because you have something coming up, a meeting that's important to you, right? If I'm in the mindset that I don't want to trigger this person, then I'll just waste my own life. I will hurt myself, which is not the right thing. The passionate thing, the compassionate thing to do for that friend is to let them suffer. Okay, no one can pick up their phone call right now. Maybe in that case, they'll get so tired of their intense anxiety that they'll do something about it besides enable themselves, right? The kindest thing you can do sometimes is let somebody suffer so that a pain pattern can run its course, because a pain pattern has a shelf life. You speed up the process of releasing it when you let it be there and when you let it purify you. It's like an eye of the needle. It's like a gate that you go through feeling abandoned. Okay, feel abandoned. If you let yourself feel abandoned alone, feel the fear of death enough, I swear and I promise, one day, I don't know how else to say it, you'll get bored of it. It's like I heard a story by Abraham Hicks where Abraham said, oh, Esther has a friend who bought a house in the middle of the woods, and she loves to hike, but there's bears and snakes and all kinds of stuff. She lives in a national park. And she was struggling all the time because she wants to hike, but she's so afraid of the animals. She's in conflict, right? So eventually she got so tired of the conflict that she was like, screw it, I'm gonna go hiking. If today's my day, the bears will get me. In other words, she decided to live and not stay in conflict, not stay in the fear. that is such a sacred initiation. That is such an important process, to let something run its course so that what naturally breaks through is the decision to live. The decision to live in the tree of life, not the tree of death. So, your deepest pains are your most important doors. Your most important doors. Instead of, if you have, for example, a partner, if you have a strong fear of abandonment, and don't only do this if it resonates with you, and you have someone who travels a lot, maybe goes on business trips, and maybe they're busy the whole time they're traveling, try, instead of feeling the need to squash your fear, open up to it and say to the creator, I know this is good. Help me speed up the process. I don't want to be owned by this. I don't want to pace around my house looking at a cell phone, waiting for people to answer me. You know how much life force is wasted? When you don't live in that fear anymore, all of that creative bandwidth will be siphoned and used for something that you love, something that will move you forward in life. And I promise you that without exception, every human being lives in these rooms. In my work, we call them constructs, vaults, and tanks. They are the ideas, fears, and emotions that form the basis of how the ego controls reality and stays in a place of fear. So if you want to pray to the creator that it liberate you from these rooms, from those states of being. And what that will look like is that it will get amplified. Let it get amplified. Let it get amplified, and let it amplify in others. Right? That doesn't mean in the example of the friend, right? If you want to be a friend and like pick up sometimes, do it. But if they're draining the shit out of you because they're enabling themselves by just using you as a someone to vent to every single day, deny their request so that fear can get amplified in them, because only then do they have a greater chance of choosing anything different. It's kind of like and I can say this from experience, like if you have an addiction, how many times have you heard that people let things go when they hit rock bottom, but when they're on the way to the bottom, they're going so fast you can't really stop them. But then they get to the bottom. Sometimes they realize, oh my God, I've lost someone. I've been living in this terrible state of being for years. Like, fuck this. I'm sick of this. Would you ever want to take that away from someone? And again, you must choose how you want to live. If you have a partner, someone in your family that's lived something terrible, and you want to help them recover and feel safe, that's a beautiful thing, and there's a place for that. But it only is useful to a certain degree, because the only way to change is to get tired of living in fear, period. So, yeah, I can't tell you how grateful I am for all of the time I've spent alone in my fears. Because from this point on in my life, I am going to be radically free. Radically free. Because I want to be radically free. So I prayed for something. I prayed to change myself. I didn't pray for somebody who would never abandon me. I didn't pray for all the solutions to my problems. I prayed to become a person who doesn't live in the world of problems. And that's what I'm receiving. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have a beautiful day.